In this video, we will cover these final features. At the end, you will see your app come together. Everything you've learned can be applied to any app you build in the future. Ready? Continuing where we left off, we need to adjust the fields for a better user experience. First, before we move everything we just built to screen new, we need to do some housekeeping. Go to Screen New and click on any blank space on the screen. Use Ctrl-A to select everything, then delete the radio, cancel icon, and the button gallery. Go to Screen Testing, Ctrl-A to select all. Deselect the notes and the label which shows our variable. Ctrl-C to copy everything else. On Screen New, paste these controls, Ctrl-V. In the tree view, click on Form New Assessment. Stretch your form to be the same width as the tabs above. In the Right Properties pane, click on the Columns dropdown. One thing you do not want to do is adjust the size of your fields at this point. If you have blank spaces on your form, that is actually the data cards of the non-visible fields. If any of your data cards are out of place, like you see here, just make adjustments by moving the cards to where they should be. A better option for now is move your tabs up, then increase the height of your form so more fields fit. But, as you can see here, selecting the controls directly are sometimes unsuccessful. In that case, select them in the tree view, then position them where you want. You also will want your form to partially show the next fields at the bottom. This shows your users that there are more questions. You can finalize the layout after all functionality is done. Field validation is very important because it prevents users from submitting incomplete forms. We'll apply it to all the fields except the feedback fields. By placing an icon in each data card and using a simple if statement, the icons will conditionally change from a red X if the field is empty to a green check once there is data typed in the field. This part is tedious but not difficult. To add an icon to the data card, click on the AU01 data card, then click on the input control. Like we did before, look at and remember the name of the input control in the tree view. Insert, icon. Choose any icon just to get it into the data card. Rename the control Icon AU01 Validation. In the Right Properties pane, change the icon to an X. Cancel. Save your work. Reduce the width and height of your icon using the Right Properties pane. You can position an icon manually for X 187 and Y 10 if you change it in the Properties pane. These are not the X and Y of the screen, but rather inside the data card, so you can use these same coordinates on each icon in a moment. We will conditionally change which icon shows on the screen. To find the relative input control, look in the tree view. If you have your already made list of text input controls, these should be the same. We'll use it again on the summary screen. Once the input control is part of the formula, its border will turn green. Go to the Icon's Properties dropdown and choose Icon. Test your work, and if all is well, the icon will change. Also, to help with further testing, leave some information in the fields. Now we'll copy the beginning of the formula and we'll apply it to the icon's color. Again, test your work, and if all is well, the color of the icon changes. Copy the working icon. Go to the next AOU1 data card, then paste in the icon. Rename it. You'll notice that the label and the icon overlap. You can take care of that by adjusting the label's font size. For now, let's just focus on the icons. Change the icon formula so that it relates to that card's input control. Then do the same for the color formula. Repeat this same process for all AOU1 data cards, then test your work. Repeat these same steps for the next data card and so on. Test your work along the way, and if all is well, move on to AOU2, 3, 4, and 5. Then SLO1, 2, and 3, but not the feedback fields since these are optional. Also, skip the academic fields for now. We'll cover these later. With everything working as it should, save your work. For the next piece of validation, we need to create a collection of fields with the blank answers in our form. This collection will be used to display a gallery of unanswered questions on the summary screen. Pause the video as much as need be to create the formula. Just be 100% sure that your data card values for the input fields are what you add to your formula. This is where your list comes in handy, but you can easily look and scroll in the tree view. Follow along, and after you create the first line of code, copy and paste it 5 times, once for each AOU1 question. Then edit each line, referencing the correct data card value for the input field. You'll notice that the data fields are colorized various shades to help you identify the differences, and are highlighted in those colors on the form as well. For the pasted lines of code, change the field name inside the quotes to what it should be. This is the text that will appear in our gallery of unanswered questions. Again, this is tedious but necessary, so take your time. When you get to the last line of code, erase the comma since there currently will be nothing after it. Replace it with a closed parenthesis. Let's run the app on start. Before moving on to AOU2, let's make sure the collection works the way we expect. Let's head over to the summary screen and add a gallery. Whenever you shop online, before paying for your order, you proceed to the shopping cart. That's the concept behind the summary screen. A chance for users to see all the information they entered into the form, with the ability to go back and make changes before submitting it. Insert a vertical gallery. Reposition it, then rename it Gallery Unanswered. Change the layout to just Title. Change the data source to our new collection, Blank Answers. Change the next arrow icon to an X. Rename it Icon Unanswered. Change the color to red. Make it larger. Click outside of the gallery, then insert a text label. Rename it Label Unanswered Count. We want the X and Y properties to be relational to the gallery below. So when the gallery moves, the text label does as well. In the text properties, add count rows, gallery unanswered, all items, ampersand, unanswered questions. When we work on the Submit button, we will set the button to display as disabled unless the count is greater than 0. For now, we'll set the width of the label to 1 if that count is 0. If count rows, gallery unanswered, dot all items equals 0, then 300, otherwise 1. Lastly, set the visibility to false if the count is 0. Then enter the same for the gallery's visibility. We'll adjust the width conditionally to 300 so that the gallery is narrow. If count rows, gallery unanswered, dot all items equals 0, then 2, otherwise 300. Click the rectangle which shows which item is clicked on the gallery. Set the visibility to false. What I will show you now is optional and just one of a few ways to show a summary view of answered questions. It's the opposite of the unanswered collection. When it's done, I'll show you the easy way. Create a new collection, but first copy the gallery. Move it to the right of the original, then rename it Gallery Answered. Like the label for the count of the unanswered gallery, we'll relationally set the X and Y coordinates on the unanswered gallery. X is the same as gallery unanswered plus gallery unanswered's width plus 10 pixels. Then we'll make a copy of label unanswered count and we'll rename it. We could drag it into position, but it needs to be X and Y relational to the new gallery. Change the text formula to count the answers gallery. Now let's build the formula in app on start. Copy the formula we built for cold blank answers. Add a semicolon, move down a couple of lines, then paste it and name the collection cold answers. For each line in front of is blank, add an exclamation point. This means not is blank or if the field is not blank. At the end of the line, inside the curly bracket, type comma, field value, colon, then insert the same data card value as what's at the beginning of the line of code. Repeat this for each of the lines below. Then run app on start. Change the answers gallery layout to title and subtitle. For the new subtitle text label, change the text formula to this item.field value, but don't forget to change the data source to cold answers like I did here. Adjust the width to 500. Set the visibility to true. Now, for me, since I exited the app, I have no answered questions, so nothing shows. I'll go to Screen New and we'll answer 3 questions. Back to the summary, then I'll refresh my collection. Now that it's showing some answers, I'll change the icon to a check. I'll rename it Icon Answered. Then I'll change the color to green. Over to the unanswered gallery, to make it visual, we'll color the gallery a light shade of red. Now we see we have 3 answered and 3 unanswered for AOU1. I'll add some additional answers. We'll choose Run on Start one last time, but soon we'll add the formula to the on-visible property of the summary screen so it can be automatically refreshed. Great! The formulas controlling the visibility and width of the unanswered count label and gallery worked. The optional method is over. We'll pick up where we left off. Go into the app and complete the full formula for cold blank answers. Inside the semicolon, copy up to the first if statement. Add a comma before the semicolon and a couple of lines, then paste. You'll have an error here, but keep it that way so you can see the lines of code that are not colorized. The error is that the comma is there and now has an extra parenthesis. After you tailor these lines of code, fix that. Otherwise, it will all be colorized before you make your changes and can get a bit confusing. Change the field names text to AOU2. Either using your list or the tree view, find the AOU2 data card values and type them in. After your changes, save your work, then run app on start. If all is well, repeat the process for AOU 3, 4, and 5 and SLO 1, 2, and 3. Once that collection is complete, instead of constantly clicking App Run on Start, we'll copy the collection and paste it to the summary screen's on-visible property. After you paste, go to any other screen, then back to Summary. You'll see that data refresh itself. If all is well, save your work. Just to make sure nothing is left undone, I'm going back to my app to complete the collection of answers, cold answers. It's optional and a bit tedious, but good practice for future apps. Trust me. I'll speed things up in the video, but what we do here is just copy, paste, and tailor each line of code to cover all answers except feedback. I'll do the same for the answers collection. Once this formula has all the AOU2 data cards, I'll add it to the summary screen's visibility. I'll test it out by completing an answer in AOU2, then run the app on start. Knowing that the formula works, complete the entire collection, then copy and paste it to the on-visible property of the summary screen like we did with cold blank answers. So never again will we need to run app on start for these two collections. We'll get to that easy way to display the summary of answers, but first we need to do some housekeeping and clean up screen new. Delete the text label that shows our variable. Move Label AOU Question up to the right of the radio control. Adjust its width, then set Auto Height to On. Select both controls, then at the top of the screen, align the middle of the two. Change the font color of Label AUO Question to red so that it stands out more. Save your progress. Move the back button to the right of the form, then move the radio control flush to the form's left. Adjust the width of Label AUO Question and the radio control, then realign them if necessary. Next, we'll insert a button to cancel and clear the form, as well as to navigate to the summary screen. Rename the button Button Answers Summary. Change the text to read Answer Summary or Summary of Answers. Then adjust the width. Select the back button. This will become our cancel button. Change the text to Clear Form. As a visual warning to your users, change the fill to red. Now the fun part. An update context variable to show and hide a pop-up dialog. To save users the pain of accidentally clearing the form, we want a dialog pop-up to confirm clearance. In the OnSelect properties of the Clear button, add Update Context, open parentheses, open curly bracket, UC can'ts dialog, true, close curly bracket, close parenthesis. Meaning that when this button is clicked, this variable exists. Copy the formula. Next, we'll create the dialog by adding 4 controls to the screen. Add a rectangle, add a text label, add 2 buttons. Rename the rectangle Rectangle Dialog. Change the color to black, then fix the opacity so that you can see through it. Rename the text label Label Text Dialog. Change the text to read, "Are you sure you want to clear the form? This cannot be undone." Adjust the height and width. Rename the first button No Close Dialog. Change the text to Cancel. Rename the second button Button Yes Clear Dialog. Change the text to Clear. Go to the OnSelect property of the Button Yes Clear Dialog button. We will paste in the Update Context variable we created in the red button, then change it from true to false. Do the same for the Cancel button. Now we'll set the visible property for the 4 controls. Hold down the Control button or Command on a Mac and click once on the other 3 controls. Their visibility will be controlled by the red button. Select the visible property and enter just the name of the update context we created, UC can'ts dialog. This will make these controls show and hide when the variable is changed from true to false. Test your formula, then save your work. Once everything works, we need to organize these new controls. Resize the rectangle so that it covers the entire screen. Look in the tree view to make sure your rectangle is layered beneath the 3 other controls. Position the text control so that it's centered on the screen. Organize the buttons. You can always change the colors, but for now, fill the Cancel button with gray and the Clear button with red. Make any color adjustments you wish. By now, you should begin to see how things are coming together. Test your work. Save it. Let's clear the form. In the OnSelect property of the Clear button at the end of the Update Context variable, add semicolon, reset form, the name of your form, Form New Assessment. For me, that's Form New Assessment _2 at the end. Test it out by entering some data, but not too much because it will clear the form. Since the form was cleared out, let's re-enter some data so that we have something to work with. For the Summary of Answers button, set the On Select to navigate to the Screen New Summary, then navigate to it. In the Back button, on Select, create the formula to navigate back to New Form. We'll go back to the Summary screen to create the Submit button. Insert a button. Rename it Button Submit Form. Change the text to Submit Answers. Change the width to fit the text. Go to Label Unanswered Count and copy half of the formula. Then for the Submit button's display mode, enter if, paste the count formula, is greater than 0, comma, display mode.disable, otherwise, display mode.edit. This, in combination with all we've done so far, stops users from submitting incomplete forms. For the onSelect property of our Submit button, create 3 formulas. Submit form, the name of the form. Reset form, the name of the form. Navigate, screen success, screen transition fade. Save your work and publish if you haven't in a while. Let's do some design work on Screen New. Move Label New up to the top, then adjust its height. Set the width to be the same as the screen and give a 0x coordinate. Center the text. Set the fill to dark blue. Change the font color to yellow. Over to the radio control. Change its font color to yellow as well. Next, select and align both controls by their middle. What we want now is to tell users that the answers are unsaved. Insert a text label. Rename it Label Unsaved Warning. Change the text to read, "You have unsaved answers." Go to the Visible property and set it to the name of your form .unsaved. Now your users are warned that the answers are not uploaded yet. Adjust the width. Set the font weight to bold. Change the font color to orange. Move the control so it visually aligns with your buttons. Adjust the font size and continue to align as need be. Let's see how it works by clearing the form. This will clear all answers we've entered in AOU1 fields. When we click clear, our warning goes away. Perfect. Copy this control so we can paste it on the summary screen. Over to the summary, then paste the control and rename it Label Unsaved Warning Summary. So, finally, getting back to what's the easy way to view answered questions, simply insert a display form. Rename it Form Viewer Answers. Change the data source to AUO-SLOS. Change the item property to the name of our new form, Form New Assessment, .updates. This will bring 9 data cards, fields, and their answers. If you created the answered gallery and label answered count, don't delete them. Just set their visibility to false. Make the changes to their visibility properties individually by just commenting out what you don't need. For the display forms X, set it to be relative to the unanswered gallery. Gallery unanswered.x plus gallery unanswered.width plus 10. Set the Y to be the same as gallery unanswered. Gallery unanswered.y. Set the columns to 1. Set the fill of the display form to a light gray or light blue. Set the width to 700. Since the form only brought in 9 fields, like before, we need to add the fields. We will do this after we finalize functionality. For the unanswered gallery, we need to add an edit button so users can go edit the blank answers. Click on the template in the gallery and expand it down some. Insert a button. Click on the separator and delete it. That will generate an error with the rectangle. No problem. Click on the rectangle and delete it. Back to the button. Rename it Button Edit Answer. Change the text to Edit Answer. Space inside the double quote, ampersand, this item dot field name. Change the font size to 11. Change the width to 300. Set the X to 25. Set the Y to 15. Click the gallery itself and adjust the conditional width as need be. Click the icon unanswered and the title. Delete both. Change the button's fill color to light red. Select the gallery itself, then change the fill to transparent. Adjust the template height again so it is not as tall, but be sure you can see half of the last visible button. Adjust the width as need be. If Show Scroll Bar is turned off, turn it on. Create a variable based on the field name via an if statement, and navigate the user back to the form. Copy, paste, and tailor it. For label unanswered count, center the text, adjust the X coordinates as need be to fit over the gallery. Change the color to dark blue and the font weight to bold. Make sure with the font size that the text fits inside the width of the control. Make adjustments as need be. Set the gallery's border to none. Move the Submit button to the right of the display form. Adjust the display form's width to make room on the screen. Just like we relationally set the display form to the gallery, relationally set the button's X to the display form. Form viewer answers.x plus form viewer answers.width plus 10. Save your progress. Leave the back button in place, but check to make sure you have the onSelect formula to navigate to screen new. Let's go there. At this point, we do one more thing with validation. Add it to the academic fields. Since we have drop-downs, the formula will be slightly different when we get to those fields. So in my test environment, Lorna Anderson is the user for demo purposes and shows her as logged in. In an enterprise environment, more users will appear in your drop-down. slight deviation and adjustment. Label AUO question cannot be seen clearly at the top, so we'll move it below our buttons but relationally above the form so it fits properly. Center the text. Reduce the font size. Set the width to be the same as the form. Make the text semi-bold. Click on the different fields to see that the changing text fits. Adjust the form's y-coordinate and label AOU questions y-coordinate as need be. Back to validation. Copy an icon that is already set up. Like we did before, paste the validation icon into each of the admin data cards. Change the name, then look in the tree view to verify that we have the correct data card for the formula. Since this is a drop-down of users versus an input control, instead of .text, we have to use .selected, .fullname to validate the data. Repeat the process for the second dropdown. As for the mission statement and link, unless you want those to be mandatory entries, do not add validation. With that done, let's update the collection with these 7 fields. In the app on Start, move the formula down a few. Highlight 7 lines, paste them above. Then tailor these to be the newest fields. This is also a good time to recheck your work. I discovered that I missed adding one of the fields in the AU01 group to the collection and again from the other AUO groups. So, if that's the case for you, go through each AUO group and add whatever is missing. Also, if you created the opposite, the collection of answers, make the appropriate changes to that collection. Lastly, once you have this completely built, be sure that the onVisible property of Screen New and the app on Start have the same formulas. With the functionality complete, it's time to test, and the way to do that is to enter data into every field. I'll do all but 2. This is also the opportunity to look for any fields that were missed in the collection or are out of order on the form. If you come across any, take care of it. On the summary screen, we see all but 2 questions answered, and we see our answers populated in the display form. The Submit button should be disabled. If nothing happens with the Edit button, check the gallery's display mode to make sure it is set to Edit versus View. Answer the questions, then go to the summary. Here's a tip not in the video. Add the collection formulas to the Summary of Answers button on the form versus Screen New Summaries on Visible Property. The data will refresh sooner. Let's submit. Success screen. Auto navigation to the landing screen. Perfect. Now we need to verify that our data was submitted. Go to your data source and choose Edit Data. Give it a moment to load. And there's our entry. You should see the same in SharePoint. Beautiful. If it did not, take a look at your formulas, but if you get stuck, contact me and we'll figure it out together. And our submit button was supposed to clear out the form. Let's check. All clear here. Let's check another. Lastly, let's check the unanswered gallery. Awesome! The last step in functionality is finalize the display form. I usually wait until I know the form works. So, if you haven't already, add all the fields into the display form. Select the form, then click Edit Fields. Remove what you don't need, but add all the fields from Form New Assessment. Add them in groups like just AU01 fields, then AU02, and so on. Also place them in the order you need them to appear. This method speeds up the adding process, otherwise, adding them all at once will take a long time to process. Our next to last piece, we'll set up the layout on the landing screen using an image from the internet. Insert an image control found under Media. Adjust the size, then upload an image from your computer into it. It's your preference of what you want the landing page to look like, but I usually display the 3 buttons like this. Here's a screenshot of something I saw in a YouTube video. Looks impossible from what we already have, but it's fairly simple. Move the image out of your way. Adjust the height of your gallery. Resize the buttons. Change the border radius to 0. Still inside the gallery, insert a text label. Move it to the bottom of the template. Set the text to sit at the top and center of the control. Adjust the gallery height a bit more, then increase the text control's height. Like we did before, we'll conditionally set up the text. I'm going to do an if statement to show you, but we'll actually build a switch statement since we have more than 2 conditions. We'll comment out the if statement and build the switch. Change the fill color. Move the text control to the bottom of the template, then stretch the bottom of the button. Rename the text control, label navigation text. Rename the gallery also, gallery navigation. We need some space, so let's reduce the image. Set the button to transparent. Change the font color to dark blue. Set the hover fill to transparent also, then do the same for press fill. But for hover color, make it red. Change the border color to blue. Align the button and label, then move them to the center of the template. Now insert an image control for the icons. One good source is Flat Icon. They have free vector images with transparent backgrounds. Download what you like, then upload them to your app. Rename the control Image Navigation. Align all of your controls to their center. We need 2 more images, so you can replace this image 2 more times or add another image control, then replace each image. Ultimately, there will be only 1 image control. There's a third way, which I'll show you in just a moment. Bring in the icons you want to use. If your image does not appear, just go to another screen, then return and the image should appear. From the text label, copy the switch formula. Paste it into the image property, then alter it to display the names of the 3 images you just brought in. That second method to add images is here on the left. Add media. Replace each line of text with the name of your image. Delete the extra image control. Reposition the gallery. Adjust the template so you can widen the button. Set label navigation text to equal the width and X of the button. Make font color adjustments as need be. Then hide your example image. Don't delete it. We'll paste it to screen branding shortly. After making final position adjustments to the gallery, move label landing and transform it into a dark blue fill, yellow text header like we did on screen new. Looking good. Down to our last steps. Make a copy of Button Navigate. Rename it Button Navigate Back. Move it to the bottom of all the gallery's controls. Set the back button's X and Y properties to be Button Navigate's X and Y. I will change the fill color, but hang on, I'll show you 2 better ways. 1, you can use a color fade formula, then make adjustments to how it fades. Or 2, select our image example, cut it, go to screen branding, then paste the image control. Rename it Image Branding Sample. Then replace the image with either an image of your company's branding guidelines or something from the internet until you have your own. I have the colors of the Air Force. Duplicate the colors in the image by inserting rectangles, then customize their colors by the settings in your image. I'll rename the first rectangle to the name of the first color, Branding Catalina Blue. Change the rectangle's fill properties to the RGB of what we see in the image. Duplicate the rectangle, then repeat the process. Go to screen landing. Choose the back button, then its fill property. Comment it out, then set it to reference any one of the rectangles from the branding screen. I'll choose the fourth rectangle, Branding American Gold, .fill. The power of this is you can easily manage the color of many controls with one change. Here I'll insert a rectangle on Screen New. With the rectangle and the back button referencing what's on the branding screen, we can go to Branding American Gold and adjust the alpha channel of the RGBA color. Just remember the correct name of the rectangle. The changes on branding are shared globally across the app. Let's put things back to normal. As usual, save your work. The final piece, controlling user access to certain screens. Click on Button Navigate and conditionally set the display mode property. The formula is if the value is not equal to management or the text in two hidden text controls match, then enable the button. Here are the two hidden text labels. In my test environment, I said the user is Lorna Anderson. So if a user is not logged in as Lorna, I do not want users not named Lorna Anderson to be able to click the management button. Pause and add two text labels to your screen. Name the one on the left, label Authorized Manager. Name the one on the right, label Logged In User. In the text property for label Authorized Manager, hard code as your username. For me, that's Lorna Anderson. Let's pretend that is also the logged in user. In the text property for label logged in user, put user, open, close parenthesis, full name. This will show you your username. For me, Lorna Anderson appears. That's the logged in user. Set the font color to if label logged in user.text equals label authorized manager.text, color green, otherwise red. When you preview the app, both should be green if the usernames are the same and the management button is enabled. Notice that when I change the text to anything other than a match to the username, the management button is disabled and the font color turns red. With that, you can set the navigation for management to go to any screen you want to restrict. Maybe where you conduct your test, or a practical screen such as your branding. Just make the change in the onSelect formula. Lastly, hide the text labels and move them to the bottom right corner. And with that, we are done. All that you've learned in this course is literally everything you need to build any other app. There are other features to learn, but that's enough for now. Apply these same fundamentals and you'll do great. In time, it gets easier. Of course, there's always more to learn. It goes on, but you can do it. If you ever have any questions, contact me at any time, and God bless in your Power Apps journey. Stay awesome, have a blessed day, and remember, be epic.